Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. Okay, so I feel like there is a warning coming through with this one, and this warning might be for you. It might be for your person. It might be for both of you, but maybe at different times. Take that however it's resonating. I feel like the likelihood that this warning and this message may apply to both of you increases the longer that this weird limbo period between you stretches on. The likelihood that you both will be confronted with this kind of scenario that I'm describing, I think increases. Now, if this warning is coming through for your person, I feel like you may have been drawn in here to this message as Spirit's way of offering you clarity as to what is going on, what's going on in your life. And I'm hearing the word relief, like especially in regards of some kind of relief, but also what's going on behind the scenes in regards of like your soul timelines and this soulmate connection in particular, because I feel like you are in some kind of Nine of Swords energy, and Spirit is recognizing that and trying to bring in clarity about what's going on here. So this Nine of Swords energy, for some of you, I feel like is very conscious. Like you are aware that you are anxious, and it may well have to do with some kind of trying time that you're going through. And I think it has to do with Pentacles energy. So it could have to do with like work or like your living situation, assets, your routines. Like something here might feel like a slog, or you're just feeling like you're having to pull too much weight, something like that. I think also though, there is this like soul deep anxiety that's very subconscious, and it has to do with like, I want to say broken vows and like a soul connection here, because there's a lot of soulmate energy that's kind of moving all throughout this, but it's kind of the bedrock of whatever's unfolding on the physical. And on some level, you feel that and you sense that and you know that. Because I feel like there's two soulmates here and there's karma to be cleared out between the two of them. But it does feel like one of these soulmates is maybe responsible and is supposed to be initiating some kind of clarity and some kind of ownership and responsibility energy via a conversation that brings in the truth. And this is linked to past lives here as well. And it's also linked, we've got 2 4s here, and a lot of times for me, that is promises are kept and invitations to events. So I feel like the original intention here, the big soulmate promise, I want to say, that one of these soulmates made to the other one was, no, please come incarnate with me. Let's be together. I promise I'm not going to fuck up this time. I promise I'm going to clear the karma between the two of us. I promise I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to reveal what is hidden. I'm going to tell you the truth. And we are going to cut these cords with karmics that are around, with negative patterns and addictions. I promise. Trust me, I'm going to do it. And so this other soulmate said, okay, and like took a chance and incarnated here with this person under those circumstances. Promises are kept, invitations to events. And I feel like invitations to events is a wedding. I'm strongly getting that. There's meant to be a wedding here in this situation, and that is clearing the karmas. And I do not think that happened because of something that continues to play out. It's the karma here. And the way I'm seeing the karma between these two soulmates, I'm seeing like a big, thick artery that can carry a lot of blood, that of course can carry a lot of nutrients and oxygen and, you know, all that good stuff. And I'm seeing at first it was like just open and flowing, but then I'm seeing it get twisted. And the word twisted is like really standing out to me, but I'm seeing it get twisted and all like clogged and blocked. And somebody here that was responsible for that, and I think that they were responsible, it's via the death card energy, which to me, it's like scorpionic energy. So they were responsible because it could be that they were pulled in 2 different directions. Like they wanted like 2 different things. And it feels like maybe one thing is like very materialistic and the other is genuine, deep, passionate love. And those are in opposite directions here, like for this soul, because there's this being pulled apart is kind of like half the point of what this soul is being asked to confront within themselves. So it could be that I'm pulled in 2 different directions. It could be that there's a cycle here that they needed to end, like maybe being an F-boy, you know, they need to decide like, okay, well, that was one phase of my life and I'm ready for a different phase. It also could be like that they have emotions here. And I feel like actual deep emotions for this person that they never expressed. And it could even be contradictory emotions here as well. And this person's like, I'm all clogged up and I'm confused and I don't know what it is to do. But I think also this person may well have done something or multiple somethings or someones that was hidden behind the scenes. And I think it's very convenient, but this person doesn't like to look at that part because I think things ended here between these soulmates, and it ended because whoever this soul is, that's like, nope, I'm going to clear this karma. I'm going to turn this around. Right. They yeeted like out the back door, and it feels like very sudden. And I'm seeing, remember from like Finding Nemo, the turtles, how they were in the current, you know, like the current, but you can get spit out of the current. And I feel like that's kind of what happened here. Although I am seeing the artery, like this person getting like pushed out of the artery, because it feels like messier that way and like more consequential in a sense. Like it blew out the side of the artery kind of a thing. But that's what I'm seeing is like this soulmate was like, well, I have to leave this. And so they left this soulmate connection, but they also left their genuine like spiritual path that they had planned for themselves. Like, okay, no, this is going to be my path. And of course we all have free will here. But when you exit that, the flow, the Tao of like your life, then you do have free will. And that's when you do have karma. Like that's when you can start accumulating karma. It's not necessarily bad. It's neutral. It is what it is. Like that's the lens that we're kind of being invited to look at this through. So this person needed to make that decision, I feel like, because they felt overwhelmed. Like all of this was maybe too much to confront, because I feel like they needed to take responsibility. And I think it was too much for them to confront. I think they felt overwhelmed emotionally. And I think that maybe processing through all of this could have been enormous for this person, or like a problem. But I also think that an amendment was made to the original promise, the original agreement. And that amendment was made by the same soul that has the karma to clear in this situation and made the promise to begin with, because they did something here and it gave rise to their karmas, the situation that they needed to confront, that they needed to deal with. And when they were confronted by the enormity of doing what they promised to do, which is to take responsibility and communicate here about some kind of scorpionic energy. So about the depth of their emotions, maybe even like contradictory emotions, communicating about some kind of ending, why they didn't end something that they should have ended, or why things ended between the two of you, or something that they were strategizing towards, or something that they were doing in secret behind the scenes here. That's what they needed to do. That is them clearing their karma. They felt that they couldn't do that for some reason. They were too overwhelmed. So on a soul level, and maybe for some of you this happened like actually on the 3D, but on a soul level, I feel like this person's higher self said, okay, panic button, I'm overwhelmed. I have to yeet out the back door. I am so sorry, but I promise I am coming back for you. I'm going to do what I need to do, get myself together, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to do what I said I was going to do all along. Take accountability, communicate clearly, come clean, tell you the truth. But I just need this little time here. Promises kept, invitations to events. So now there's an amended promise here. And I think that this person re-entering this person's life and doing all of those things may well have been attached to an invitation to an event. Like, okay, I'm going to invite you to this event, or you're going to invite me to this event. And that's when I'm going to take responsibility and clear this karmic debt. Now, who knows if this person's going to be able to do that, because once they have kind of yeeted out the back door, they've left the flow of this Tao energy, which is the life that they planned with spirit. It works in tandem with like spirit's divine mission. And we leave this all the time. And this is not the worst person in the world because they did that, right? We have free will here. But when we exercise our own free will, that's when we build our karmas. And that's what I feel like this warning is about. I'm hearing warning, warning, warning. And I feel like this scenario that I'm about to describe definitely applies to the person that hit the eject button immediately, because they're going to be in this situation immediately. But if they don't clear this karma, if they leave this situation in this weird limbo period, I just heard, yo, nothing good starts in a getaway car. If they jump in this getaway car, it's going to kind of take on a life of its own. There's a risk of that. It's going to build its own momentum and its own trajectory that's moving away from this person's life path. And for them clearing up their karma, and it's moving away from this soulmate connection. And there's definite karmic consequences that are going to arise from that. They're digging themselves further into the hole. They're not getting themselves out of the hole. And that is the warning here. But like I said, the longer this limbo period goes on, the more likely it is for the soulmate who's been kind of left out in the cold here, left to deal alone. And I think left in quite a vulnerable or precarious situation in some way. And that could be a part of the karmic pattern that's played out here in past lives, because this soulmate energy that's been left, is showing up as the Four of Swords. And the Four of Swords in this deck, it's like a lamb with a sun energy on its third eye chakra. So it's like an enlightened lamb energy. Definitely a gentle energy coming through for this soulmate, but it's like lamb to the slaughter, like sacrificial energy. And there's four swords like hanging over this lamb. So I feel like this lamb's in a dangerous position. And I do think that's part of the karmic cycle that this other soul was meant to clear up, because this soul falling short and dealing with whatever they're doing or not communicating that in some way, I think leaves this person vulnerable in some way, or like leaves them in a rough situation. There's something here, and there may well be four truths that this person needs to communicate, something here like that. And so the longer that they're kind of left alone, the more that likely it is that this situation is potentially going to apply to them as well. Although I will say that I think what this is exposing is that these two soulmates, although they're soulmates, they are not anywhere near the same level, because I think in this splitting energy, there's a difference here in regards of hermit mode, because hermit mode is the highest path here for sure. It is the highest and best path for both of these individuals. And I think it will go a long way in keeping both of these souls safe when they're in this weird limbo period. The soulmate that was left, I think, is more capable of doing that and is choosing to do that. But I'm seeing the hermit energy transform into the Six of Swords energy. It's kind of functioning dysfunction, but like I'm seeing it in the Light Seers tarot deck in my mind of like very rainy. They're on like a very small boat. They've got their like luggage. They're very sad. They're like not looking ahead of them. They're looking kind of like down, but they're still choosing to stay in it. I feel like that's them facing their karma. You know, they're living out this kind of maybe grieving. Maybe they feel discarded or unwanted or not valued or strategized against by this person who let them think that. Maybe they felt, maybe that's what they're not communicating here, because they haven't communicated the depth of their emotion. So they just left this person like feeling, and maybe it's weird little things like that are leaving this person vulnerable, because maybe they think that they're not worthy or something. And that's putting them in a mindset that is maybe leaving them vulnerable to being preyed upon. It's something like that. It could be that. That's just an example, but it's something like that where it matters. The truths that were not exposed here by this person, it is affecting the soulmate in some kind of way. And it's quite a bad way, but I feel like that soul is choosing hermit mode, at least here at first. And I'm seeing them progressing onwards. Yeah. So spirit is keeping them moving. And I think they're going to bump into a King of Pentacles energy. And that is either going to be this person, but they have to kick it into gear and they have to kind of like run up ahead, I feel like. But it might also be a different King of Pentacles. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. But this other soul that's hit the eject button struggles a bit more with hermit mode. And in that way is kind of farther behind than like their soulmate here. And that may well be what's causing some of the issues. So it's still in their highest and best interest. This is where I feel like the warning is kind of coming in. It's still in their best interest for them to be in hermit mode. But I do feel like they are legitimately, and this might be mirrored in this situation, they're legitimately going through something very difficult. And it feels like that is on an earthy realm. And it could be that these two souls were planning on going through their difficult karmas in this way together. And so this was already shaping up in their life. And then this person hit eject and now they're both kind of floundering like on their own, and they weren't necessarily planning on having to do that. That could be true. It also could be that this person's in a worse off position than they would have been in because they left their path, because they left their soulmate path and they got spit out in this like really maybe tough place. But that was a choice. That was a consequence of the choice that they made, because this soulmate that hit the eject button, that's something that they've got to learn. And they might even have more than one experience of this. They need to learn that their actions have consequences. The word consequential is coming through because this person, I think it's painful for them to think of themselves as having caused what they are experiencing, at least like in part, because there's a real victim mentality going on here because they were hurt. I feel like this person was hurt, and it's because of the depth of emotion that's here and was not spoken, was not like exposed. But I think there is a real risk that resentment could grow and like be fixated on the soulmate. But the soulmate I'm seeing in this lamb energy, like they're gentle and I think they're vulnerable in some way, and they're really, they don't have the full truth. Like this soulmate that hit the eject button, there's a lot of truth that they're hoarding on their side, and it's scorpionic. So it's heavy hitting energy. It's some kind of depth of emotion. It's some kind of strategy. It's some kind of fucked up thing they're doing behind the scenes here. And they are assuming that the soulmate, they're looking at this situation as though the soulmate's on equal terms with them when they've done their damnedest to make sure that they're not. The soulmate doesn't have the full truth. This soulmate is just reacting to the truth that what little truth, what breadcrumb truth they're getting from this other person. It's not the full picture. And if they could take a second to stop and put themselves in the soulmate's shoes, they would realize, oh, of course, from their perspective, it looks like this or that. And they know it in terms of their strategy because they're hoarding power over here. Strategically, they're like, I'm going to obscure the deep feelings that I have for you because I feel vulnerable. Yeah, there's a mirroring here with that lamb energy because I feel vulnerable if I tell you that I'm feeling emotional. Well, then that's fine. That's a choice that you make. But then don't act like your soulmate here knows that you have deep feelings for them because you were dicking around with somebody else and you didn't tell them. Of course, they don't think you have deep feelings. They think that you're a bit of a douchebag and that you're kind of strategic. And that is what you're showing them. But this person got hurt because of the depth of their emotions here. There was a karmic consequence that they bumped into because they didn't take responsibility and they did not communicate what they needed to communicate. And so there's a real risk here that person grows in resentment and kind of projects their own internal state of things. Instead of dealing with it, they project it onto the soulmate and they don't see the soulmate clearly. There's a real risk, and that's going to be a very karmic decision that they're going to make. And that is compounded with the situation that they find themselves in. So like I said, once they exited here, they have a genuine hardship. And it is in the physical. And like I said, that might be mirrored here for both of these soulmates, but they do have a genuine hardship and it's in the earthy realm. So it could be that this person is working a lot. It could be that they always have to be on, this time in their life. Maybe they do customer service or something, it could have something to do with their like foundational energy, like their living arrangements, but it feels like a bit of a slog and it also feels temporary. It feels like it's a genuine stage in this person's life, but it also feels very temporary. And like I said, it is much more advantageous for this person to be in hermit mode because this soul clearing up their karma means they have to be able to take accountability and they have to let the dust settle. They're not very good at that anyways. So that would be advantageous, but they're not very good at it. And they're also going through a really, really hard time. And Spirit's kind of looking at that and saying, that might be asking too much. So there's an option that's coming in here and it's a karmic and it is a person. And I feel like whoever this karmic energy is reflects actually this person. I think there might be in the same boat, as this person. So like they have their own soulmate that I think it's a 10 of swords. They betrayed maybe with this person. Because I also feel like there's temptation and there's karmic testing that's going on here for some of these people, depending on how bad something is here. But this person that's coming in is kind of in the same situation. They betrayed their soulmate. They left things badly and they're looking for an escape. Both of these people are, nothing good starts in a getaway car. And that person was like, okay, I'm going to come back or whatever, right? So it's coming in because I think genuinely Spirit feels that I'm going to go back like to just this first person perspective, that this person could use a distraction and that might actually be protective, but it's supposed to be temporary. So this person that's coming in is maybe like a bright light, like a bright spark, but is not at all a soulmate energy. They have nothing in common, but the energy between them is very superficial because it seems like they're both looking for something superficial. And that is definitely for this person I'm picking up on, like just at the time, right? But this other person that's coming in, it's either they're in the same exact boat that this person is in, they're exactly mirrored, or that could just be a very superficial person and they're just looking for something superficial. And so that's what they're meant to get out of this situation. And it's like a distracting energy. And I'm picturing somebody water skiing. So they're like skating over the water, their like emotions. So Spirit is saying, look, this person needs to sink into the water. They need to sink into their emotions. They need to process and they need to be able to go back and take responsibility for what it is that they did. So that's not a single step. And so at some point, this person needs to get into the water. But given how hurt they are in this situation, and that they're dealing with something on the physical that is very legitimately hard to deal with, like, and very draining. And it's all happening against the backdrop of this, I want to say like breakup, then they're going to bring somebody in here and it's an option. It's not even the best option for this person to go in for this person. It's the best option to be in hermit mode, but Spirit is just acknowledging that not everybody's capable of that. There's a lot of anxiety here. So that is this like water skiing kind of energy where it's skiing on top of the water and it's kind of moving this person to a different like location, I feel like metaphysically, where they can then sink into the water. But that's what it's meant to be. And that's where the warning is coming in, because the warning is in, nothing good starts in a getaway car. So I feel that this soulmate in particular is the one more at risk of confusing this for something that it's not, because what it is there is absolutely zero connective energy here. I'm not sure that a lot of these people can recognize it, maybe at this point in their life, because they are hurting and it feels so good to be distracted and to be fun and to be happy and laugh and enjoy themselves. That's what Spirit is wanting for this person. Spirit is saying like, look, enjoy yourself, okay? Maybe like pick up your confidence a little bit, and that's going to get you into a position where you can actually take responsibility. I feel there's a victim mentality here where it's like, you are not the victim in this situation, or you're not entirely the victim. And so it's just meant to be that these people actually genuinely have nothing in common. Like once you dip below this superficial level, so there needs to be some self-awareness here, which is also kind of part of the karma. There needs to be some self-awareness. They need to be able to put themselves in context. Like, I'm really busy. I'm heartbroken. I'm really enjoying having fun, but there's no connective space here. We're not building a connection. I feel like these two are not supposed to be boyfriend and girlfriend. They're definitely not supposed to be engaged or married or expecting or anything like that. If those things are going on, I think it just speaks to there's something really wrong here in regards of this person's ability to get real and to cut the shit and to deal with like who they actually are, because that would be a hugely confused space, because I'm really just seeing these two have nothing in common. I'm also getting that for some, this is not a great person. Like very superficial person. I'm seeing them in my mind. They're winking at me, but it's giving like douche. It's really, and that might be relevant douche because, that's a cleansing, like a schmegdual cleansing. I don't even think it's the healthiest. I don't think you're supposed to do that, but that's between you and your gyno. That's not advice or anything. I'm just saying I think that's kind of what this option is. Like it's a way to kind of cleanse the palate, but it's not even the healthiest way. And I think this person is maybe full of themselves. It's like these two are getting what the reason they can pull this particular soul for this purpose is because they're getting what they want. And what they want, I think, is superficial. And it's attention. And it could be that they want somebody's attention. They just want somebody's attention on them in particular. And your person is like playing that role. But it could be that they want attention from other people. And it could be that whatever situation, I'm kind of getting that they left with somebody else. It ended very badly, but they wanted to win that breakup. And they needed some kind of like image rehabilitator or something, and so that's what they're using this person for. And I think that there's a warning that's coming through here of making this into something that it's not, and like pulling focus of, I promise I'm going back for my soulmate. And that's my soulmate, and there is deep connective energy, and we have the same values, and we connect on that deeper level. None of that is available over here, but it just might take off on its own, but it's going to set this person back. It's going to set this person back. It's going to put them at the bottom, and they're going to have to climb themselves back out, which again, it would be very karmic. Everything here is so consequential because this person in part is learning that everything they say and do, it has its own consequence. And I think that's part of this is them being separated out from the soulmate is helpful on that front because it's being shown like what is their consequence kind of a thing. But so it's either going to, if these people end up in a relationship, they really shouldn't. But if they do, I feel like it's going to end badly. That's one potential, because I think for some of these people, like I said, whoever this karmic is that's coming in, they're in the exact same situation. They've got a soulmate connection that they're supposed to be going back to. So they might well do that. And it might not be in the best way either. They might just up and leave this person. And so it'll be this 10 of swords kind of, and they might not even offer this person an explanation. The explanation is, I needed attention. I needed a getaway car. Thank you for that. I'm going back to my soulmate, or I got an offer from my soulmate. And that's what I wanted, their attention the whole time anyway. It feels something like that. And so that would be this person confronting and looking at themselves in the mirror, because that's exactly what they were doing in this situation. But it just might have, it's kind of like whoever leaves this situation last is the more superficial of the two, is the most like satisfied from like, so that's one way. It could be that this person is just a betrayer, because I think they're split into like, they want attention, but maybe they also want a relationship. But if they wanted a relationship, then they would have chosen to go down kind of they wouldn't be with your person. They would be on some other path with somebody else, right? So it just could be that the way that they're treated in a friend group is not great, because this person reflects back that splitness that they have, because they're not choosing this person. They just want to look good for their friends. I just heard they want to stun on the gram. So that's like another thing that's coming through. And the last thing is that say this karmic that's coming in, if their soulmate doesn't want to take them back because they just kind of sense that it's the right thing to do, like that they're not seeing the deep changes, which by the way could happen in your situation too. Like if they're just saying like, I don't believe you, right? Because these people I think both need to be taking responsibility for their own actions and understand that their actions have consequences. Another thing I feel these people are supposed to not do, they're not supposed to bring each other around their soulmates, because this is so beyond this is superficial as fuck. And they're supposed to be just distracting themselves so that they can do what they need to do on the material. This has nothing to do with love, really. That's not the place like in their life. So if they try to stunt on the gram and stunt in front of their soulmate energies, I really don't think that they're supposed to introduce these people. It could be that this karmic is psychic, or that each of them are, because somebody here might, you don't want them to see the soulmate is what I'm getting. You don't, that could be a mirrored energy here. You don't want these people to see the soulmate, because where this the karmic soulmate, I want to say, like they were a soulmate, but they ejected out, where they are at risk for projecting their own nasty traits onto their soulmate here, and saying, oh, you were strategic and you meant to hurt me. I was hurt, and so you must have meant to hurt me because I was strategizing and keeping things from you, and you must have been doing the same thing. Couldn't be further from the truth. Well, this karmic that they're with can see that very clearly about their soulmate. They see that they're not a bad person. They see that they're far from a predator. They actually see that they're a lamb and that they're vulnerable, and they are wanting to block. They could be wanting to block this. That's another way that this could go, because they may want, we've got very protective mother energy here, very controlling energy. And we've also got 10 of Cups. And 10 of Cups can be Mars in Pisces, which is schmegdual energy that leads to a loss when it's negative. So that could be what they're trying to do. They could be trying to, I just heard, plant their seed, like get somebody pregnant here to pull them away, to cause a blockage, to prevent a conversation. Well, that's fucking dangerous, because they need to have a conversation in order to turn everything around. And they'll always feel stuck if they don't do that. And they'll always feel kind of like anxious, because that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they promised to do more than one time. They've promised to correct it. So this person wants to block their ability to do that. And it could be because, especially if this other karmic, if they can't work things out in their own soulmate situation, they still want to win and they want to stun on the gram. And so they just want to trap this person because there's something superficial between the two of them that they both want. And that's the truth. And they're having to confront the truth here in this situation. And it's putting somebody here at a distance. And actually this karmic, and this might well be mirrored, there is a feeling of defensiveness because they can see. I don't know if they're psychic. They have some kind of awareness of the soulmate. It could be a psychic awareness, or it could be because this a-hole brought them around his soulmate. Maybe at an event that he was supposed to be making things right. That is such a karmic no-no. You couldn't have fucked this up worse if that's what went on here. But they can see this 5 of Pentacles and they're afraid of judgment. And also because this is soulless. And so I think they're also afraid of being found lacking and also being found like morally bankrupt, which they are. I think like in this situation, they are disturbed by this on a soul level. So I do think that there's innocence here, like in this person, which is good. And it explains why they have a soulmate. And they're very defensive, and they've kind of locked up their heart in order to be strategic because they are locked out of a soulmate union themselves. And they don't know, yeah. So it's like, well, I couldn't fix my situation, so I'm going to make damn good. It's like misery loves company. That's what this is. Hi, I'm misery. Come join my timeline. Dun, dun, dun. And so if they do that, I feel like this is kind of a horrible fate because I just feel like this is a very controlling person and they're just going to isolate this person because there's something about the situation that looks superficial and then it's whoom, like just really, really heavy. It's going to take some kind of mean turn, even if they end up together. Because the only compatibility is a superficial energy between these two for a very temporary period of time. It absolutely will wear off. And the moment that they try to start dipping in deeper, they're going to hate each other. I mean, there's nothing here because they're not soulmates at all. They're supposed to be actually very far away from each other. But there has to be self-awareness and there has to be empathy and there has to be a willingness to be responsible. And those are all things that your person would need to clear their karma with you anyways. So it's all just playing out here with this karmic because they need those things to get out of this karmic situation or to recognize that it's not for them, you know, and they could be aware of this just right from the start, but they could just, again, they could be similar to this karmic. They could be just afraid of judgment. But it's like by their soulmate and it's totally justified. But their karma here is to take responsibility and to be honest. That's what their karma is. And yeah, to have this like reconciliation and promises kept and invitations to events. Yeah. But the longer this goes on, the more like I said, this could play out for both of you in this limbo period. And so if you're the soulmate that was left, the longer this goes on where this person does not tell you the truth and you're kind of like in this limbo period and there's this kind of soul level anxiety here, that's when it's likely that this could play out for you, because I think that you're going through difficult times. Either at the same time this person is, or like it's bound that you're going to go through a difficult time, and you might just want a superficial energy here yourself. And you can absolutely take that. I think you're in a little better position internally to kind of deal with that. But it very well could be that a karmic comes in on your side and it's very superficial between the two of you, and it's meant to make you laugh and it's meant to, have you have fun and forget about your troubles and stuff. And so the other thing is, though, you do not have to, if this person, it's their responsibility just to take responsibility and to start a conversation. All of that is initiating energy. So it's kind of like, well, I just have to sit here and wait. And so am I just like at the whims of it forever? No, this death card energy is you're processing through it. And that's what I feel like you chose to do anyways. Because remember, I was seeing that hermit energy, but then it was the 6 of Swords, which is, it was a very rainy card that I was seeing in my mind. Like this kind of storms, facing some kind of deep storm. You're choosing to do that. You're moving away from the difficulty because this person is just so turbulent. Because they refuse to deal with their karma, it just keeps kicking up waves. You're probably confused because it keeps kicking up waves, which is a karmic energy. And a lot of you are thinking, I'm dealing with a karmic. And unfortunately, I think you're dealing with a soulmate that is just fucked up, is what I just heard. They're refusing to deal with their potentially with a karmic that they have just formed out of a superficial energy. It's going to hurt your heart so bad that this might be a person who will just throw down for this karmic and they have nothing in common except for they needed a distraction at the same time. And this person might be like, I don't know, I'm in a relationship. I mean, I don't want to cheat on my person. And it's like, you'll just cheat on me though till the cows come home. Got it. Cool. So they're all fucked up. They're doing all the wrong things with the wrong people at the wrong time. It is building terrible karma. And they're, again, because they can't take responsibility for their own actions. And the fact that their own actions are consequential. That's the word for this person. You are consequential. You are not a victim, sir. And so you are going to be transforming this. And like I said, I was seeing that 6 of Swords energy, which is typically like some kind of boat. You're moving away. And remember earlier I said I saw your boat hitting like an island, hitting dirt, but your head's kind of down and you're so sad that I feel like you didn't even realize that like you hit King of Pentacles Island. And I think that's you in your own King of Pentacles energy, because there is something about you, or this soulmate, this soulmate that was left in the lurch, they're not going to respond to Wands energy, because there needs to, you were given time to sort yourself out. Do not come back with just Wands energy, come back with Pentacles energy. So for this person, Wands energy, it's not cutting it. They're coming back with Pentacles energy, and they can't do that if they're dicking off with a karmic this entire time. I just really don't think they can, because the karmic is going to take that pentacle. They're meant to, because they are not. I keep hearing this. They're not even supposed to be like girlfriend and boyfriend with this karmic. So if they're fiance, if they have a child, if they have a marriage, something is very extremely wrong on a soul level. It's kind of a metric of how lost this person really is, because they have nothing in common and nothing to give to each other other than ruin. And it's sort of kind of obvious. So they have to come back with Pentacles energy. But I feel like there's an irony, because this soulmate, I think, is you, that was like kind of left in the lurch here. And there's just littered with like broken promises and disappointments and fuckery from this other person. And you were just kind of left to deal in it alone. And when you hit on this King of Pentacles Island, I feel like that's your King of Pentacles. You became a King of Pentacles energy yourself because you were putting one foot in front of the other. Pentacles energy is hard to build up. Also, King of Pentacles, when it's healthy, for me, it's a very noble energy. I just heard innocence is the foundation of nobility. So you worked through and found like your own innocence. And I think maybe I am kind of getting this opposite energy, because this person was not speaking about what was going on behind the scenes. I think you blamed yourself for a long period of time, that you weren't, but it's more like I wasn't worth, I guess, being faithful to, or being, given a respectful breakup or conversation. I guess I just wasn't even worth that, So you internalized it here, but I think you've gotten acquainted with your own innocence in the situation somehow through your processing and through not running away and through actually being very strong in that. And it's really leading you somewhere, and it's leading you to a King of Pentacles. And I think when you meet this King of Pentacles, I feel like there's an irony, because you may well meet at a party or an invitation to an event, some kind of celebration. And I actually think that it's going to be Wands energy, because I think your this karmic soulmate from your past really wants there to be Wands energy between the two of you. Like, we're going to be at a party and it's going to be, we're just going to fall into bed together and then everything's going to be fine. It's not allowed to work out that way for this person. But I think that you're going to meet a King of Pentacles and it may well work out that way for the two of you, where you're going to think that they're fine as hell. They're going to think you're fine. You guys are going to be having what seems like just a lightweight kind of superficial good time. You know, you may even shebang bang. And this person has actual King of Pentacles energy though, actual foundation energy to give to you. And that might genuinely shock you. It might genuinely shock you. And that's your King of Pentacles. You may have not at all expected it to be that, but it's going to be that. And I feel like there's an irony and it's going to piss this other person off, but who gives a shit? This person is dropping the ball every time they can. And I think that's part of you. That's what Spirit is needing you to see, because they started you off on your journey. And this person had every opportunity to turn it around, to do what they needed to do, to transform themselves. And they would have had to choose multiple times not to do that, and to be a coward or to nurse their anxieties or whatever. And I think what you're supposed to see is that even though you're soulmates, they're not on your level. They are incapable of just being in hermit mode and processing through and holding themselves accountable, because this person was feeling like a victim. They were like, you broke my heart, because this person has so many deep emotions. They wouldn't have told you that though. They wouldn't have told you that. And I think that there was some kind of cycle that they needed to come to an end. And it feels like being a fuckboy, but take that how it resonates. It could be with like an actual karmic here, because it could be that this karmic that came in that had this other, they had a soulmate situation that could maybe have been before you or like all throughout. I'm not sure, but they needed to end something here and they keep choosing not to. And I don't really like this person because they're refusing to acknowledge that it is a choice, that they keep choosing not to. This person prefers to think that things just are supposed to fall into their lap and that they're just always a victim, but they're not. And they absolutely could have turned this around and it would have worked. And it would have worked. And this person had multiple opportunities to do that, and every time chose not to. So they have very much made the bed that they are lying in. Yeah, it's a lie to be over here in this situation, because all they wanted was superficiality. So that's the hell of their own making. They're in a hell of their own making. It looks a certain way on the surface, but it's anything but that, because this person is like at the bottom. And there is something very karmic about any pentacle that this person builds over here in this karmic situation that they should not have ever even been girlfriend and boyfriend with. Oh yeah, the karmic's going to take that. And you're never going to get around that. So break it sooner rather than later, you know, but they won't do that. So they have to start at the bottom, because this is all about learning how to build pentacles energy. This person is not allowed to come back into your world with their fucking wand. They have to come back in with pentacles energy, real stability, calm energy, because that's what you've earned. You have progressed here. There's a King of Pentacles waiting to offer you his pentacle and his wand, and it's better. It's legit better. And that's when the energy is turning here on this karmic soulmate, because now they're feeling judged and they're feeling defensive and they're feeling left out in the cold. And I feel like it's more of the same, like, woe is me kind of thing, because this person refuses to acknowledge that consequential word, that they are consequential actually in their life, that they can affect, they pack a punch, this person. And I think they meant to hurt you. For some of you, they tried to dangle this person in front of you because they wanted to just beat you black and blue on an energetic level. And they did want to do that. If that's what they did, they were not to do that. And they would have known. They would have known not to do that. So, yeah, I feel like they are feeling very defensive because they think that you're going to rip them a new asshole. And I think that actually you're just kind of cold and done with this person. But I would also say that they've more than earned that. So, yeah. And again, I think this is mirrored with the karmic. I think they're both in a similar position. Like, I think the karmic could listen to this and flip it around and it would apply to them as well. Because it seems like both of them were not dealing with their shit. So they were just building in the shit with each other. And it just feels so gross and superficial. And they get what they get. And him being at the bottom too and having to climb out of this, it does remind me of Eros energy. And that's the last thing that I'll say here. But it reminds me of Eros because a lot of times Eros is depicted as like a chubby little baby. And it's funny because we've got the Emperor card out here in the original spread. And the Emperor is Aries energy, of course, which is either the infant or the Emperor, you know, very different energies. And I think that's what this person had a choice to be. Infant energy, when it comes to as an archetype in grown people, an infant just cries whenever it has a need. It just cries and it waits for somebody else to do it. And so I feel like this is part of this person's choice. Are you going to be that? Possibly there is a child here, like with this karmic, and maybe they had a child because they wanted to get all of their needs met. That's a possibility here. But the Emperor is someone who is the master of their own domain. They are very developed in all 4 of the suits. And I feel that was, what was on the table here. But that, to me, the Emperor energy, Eros was originally depicted as a very virile man. And he was the first god out of the soup, out of like the muck and the mire. That's how strong he was. And I feel like that is what this person is having to cultivate. And it may well be Eros energy, their passion for life. But I also think like their passion and genuine love for you. Like, no, I'm going to get my person. That is maybe driving them forward to climb out of the pit that they put themselves in. So anyways, that's what I have for you. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye guys.